Welcome. This is Richard, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Best Practices, where every episode is specifically designed to help you sell more and make more from your innovation program using only proven, practical best practices. I want to give a special welcome to our listeners around the world in 80 countries, and also a special hello to listeners in a part of the country that I had a lot of fun in the Midwest, moved into and moved out of Cincinnati 3 times. Of course, that was with my Procter & Gamble career. And lived in Lexington, Kentucky for a few years, running the Coca-Cola bottler down there when Procter & Gamble owned it. And that was a hoot. Being part of University of Kentucky basketball was a lot of fun, and saw a Final Four there, which is a great highlight in my sports experience. So, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 routes to more innovative problem solving, which comes from a McKinsey study. McKinsey is one of the more respected consulting companies, so anytime I see something coming from them, I pay attention. So, here's an overview of what we're going to be talking about. Business challenges are becoming more complex. There's rapid technological change. Developing economic activity in emerging markets has made problems more complex. Changes are becoming more volatile. Major wins and losses are possible, and that can shake people up sometimes. And the rate of change continues to accelerate. McKinsey developed what they called flexible objects for generating novel solutions. Shorthand is Flexons. So we're going to be using that word Flexons, which is probably a new word in your vocabulary. Just remember, it's flexible objects for generating novel solutions. Flexons substitute for the wisdom and experience of a group in diverse, highly educated experts. So it's an interesting process. There's various kinds, so let's take a look at them. 5 types. Networks Flexon, making far more effective use of existing networks to solve problems. For example, a pharmaceutical company needed to develop an innovative and more effective physician marketing program. They had all kinds of addresses and information on physicians, but they targeted clusters of physicians writing articles on related subjects, feeling that these were physicians that were connected with each other and also were respected by their fellow physicians. Similar interests and interaction within the cluster enabled more effective communication among thought leaders. This is really finding out about patterns within the networks that you have, whether it be networks on something as ubiquitous as LinkedIn, your personal networks, business networks, those sorts of things, looking for behaviors that can make it more effective for you to reach people, to reach thought leaders. There's a whole bunch of flexibility here. Just don't look at the network as a amorphous whole, but rather realize that it has lots of subtleties in it. And if this is finding those subtleties that can help you be more innovative. There's the evolutionary Flexon, advanced forms of searching, evolutionary algorithms, and a population, both people and things, to filter out suboptimal solutions and identify potential prime solutions. For example, to determine a product's chances for success, you can conduct a series of low-cost, small-scale experiments testing product variations over a range of carefully chosen market segments. For example, among people who are high-influence customers, because of their activity in recommending products to other people and talking about them, but who are also skeptical about new ideas. You can get all kinds of variations of human behavior. We talk about target customers in marketing an awful lot, and the target customer tends to be, in most cases, a fairly broad definition. People 25 to 45. Whew! Boy, that's a whole lot of folks. People who have a college education, okay, that narrows it down a little bit, but not tremendously. And so it's looking for some unique behaviors that are potentially predictive of consumer behavior, or they will have inputs to you that can help you make your product more successful. The Decisionmaking Flexon, and about this they say, and I quote, "To the economic theorist, social behavior is the outcome of interactions among individuals, each of whom tries to select the best possible means of achieving his or her ends. The decision-making Flexon takes this basic logic to its limit by providing a way of representing teams, firms, and industries as a series of competitive and cooperative interactions among agents. Interesting. They go on to say game theory is the classic example of decision-making, but it's worth noting that a decision-making Flexon can also incorporate systematic departures from rationality, impulsiveness, cognitive shortcuts such as stereotypes and systemic biases. Taken as a whole, this Flexon can describe all kinds of behavior, rational and otherwise, in one self-contained problem-solving language whose most basic variables comprise agents like individuals, groups, and organizations, and their beliefs, payoffs, and strategies. There's a lot to be said here. This is talking about how decisions are made. And typically when we look at how decisions are made, we say, okay, well, this person has this authority to make this decision. They're going to make it on these criteria. Well, all that's good and fine. But quite frankly, in the real world, decisions are not made on those exact criteria that you do all the time. Those criteria might be used, but they're influenced by both rational and irrational elements that are involved in things and can be impulsive and other agendas. I mean, there's all kinds of things that influence decisions that go well beyond what you would think is the formal decision-making process. They go on to say, that this is something that can really help you understand consumer decision-making behavior. So make sure that you really tune in to the variabilities that are involved in consumer or buyer decision-making. The next one is the system dynamics Flexon. And they say about this, quote, making the relations between variables of a system along with the causes and effects of decisions more explicit allows you to understand their likely impact over time. A system dynamics lens shows the world in terms of flows and accumulations of money, matter, energy, or information. You develop a map of the causal relationships among key variables, whether they are internal or external to the team, a company, or an industry, subjectively or objectively measurable, or instantaneous or delayed in their effects. This is what I like about this is that Peter Senge, way back when, I think he's at MIT, brought this concept out into the popular world of discussions, and that is seeing things as systems. There's such a benefit to seeing the world as systems, because that's exactly what it is. I know I get frustrated sometimes in my interactions with the medical community that have just all the specialties that you could ever imagine, and then a few more. And these specialists know that little part of the body, but that part of the body is part of a bigger part of the body called the human body, which is a system. And what's happening in one part of the body can impact other parts of the bodies. You really need this system sort of look when you're looking at decision making and system dynamics that can help you understand opportunities for innovation. Here's an example of system dynamics. It's simple and straightforward, but and systems, quite frankly, get far more complicated than I'm going to outline here. Take an example of an oil spill. Well, the oil emits through pipes up out of the ground. Then there are intermediate containment vessels that it goes through, and then you can map the pressure gradients to predict the oil spill directions in the ocean. It's an entire system. It's the interaction of the oil with the ocean with pressure gradients that can predict where it's going and the speed and all of that. So it's and the amount of flow of oil, which is part of this system that's coming out of the pipe, is going to significantly impact all of that. So you need to look at these things as systems and look at them for their ability to help you solve problems that you haven't really been able to figure out before. So in this particular case, in this particular example, for example, changing the pressure gradient anywhere in the system can influence the outcomes, possibly developing new and innovative responses. So take a look at whatever you're looking at from the perspective of a system. Then there's the information processing Flexon, and it evaluates the information processing and decision-making process for strengths and weaknesses. When you are, and this really also applies to the decision-making process too, you need to understand where quality and competency in the process, in the decision-making process, are weakest and the risks they pose. I guess it's more than the decision-making process. It's the process of development of any kind that this really kind of applies to. In that process, there are varying degrees of quality and competence, and you need to understand where they are and where they're weak elements in the process. What risks do they pose? This is also a great opportunity when you look at a particular problem or situation from this perspective, where you see weak parts. There may be an opportunity for innovation, either a service or a product that could take the risk out of it, therefore increasing the quality of the eventual outcome. So very important stuff here. Evaluate previous decisions and processes, especially those that did not work out, to find out where information and decision-making were weak, leading to the poor decision. So this is another, they're actually coming at this from a number of perspectives, but this is also if you will, a system way of looking at things. Looking at the process and where decision points are, what the quality of information, where in the process are there weaknesses that can impact the quality of the outcome and the consistency of the outcome, and from that information being able to gather stimulus for potential innovative new ideas. So interesting stuff. Here's a couple of examples how they can aid a complex business problem. In networks, for example, develop various evaluation methods and indices to identify network members with the best chances of solving this problem. For example, in quantum idea generation, when we go out to get external diversity, this is exactly one of the things that we do. We develop various evaluation methods. We know, for example, I did a frozen food project where I was really looking for world-class experts. When I started the search, I knew absolutely nothing about this field. They were all the experts were kind of equal. But then as I dug into it, I started to find evaluation methods and criteria that qualitative and quantitative criteria as I explored the network that helped me identify those people that were both the best fit from an expertise standpoint, but had the current relevant expertise. In this particular case, we're doing research that was pretty advanced but had not been published yet. So this was a good example of finding relevant expertise that didn't duplicate what the client had. Next example is evolution. Describe how ideas and techniques are typically developed, looking for conditions and situations where there are blockages or poor decisions are made. Again, looking at things from a system standpoint, looking for how decisions are made. This can often be very important in B2B, because the decision-making process, when you eventually map it out in a B2B situation, I've just seen some really bizarre decision-making processes that can exist in B2B. Influencers, information providers, decision makers on some elements of it. The path can look like a zigzag path. So all of this stuff can really help you solve problems in an innovative way. Decision agents, understanding the full range of incentives and decision-making criteria helps design incentives for better decision-making. Let me give you an example from my Procter & Gamble career. In the last years that I was at Procter & Gamble, teams started to become a really, really important part of what we were doing. And there were business teams, there were new project teams, all these sorts of things. And if you were a member of a particular function working on a project, you became part of that team. And in we went, and we went through the course of all this and doing our work. At some point along the way, people found out that people were acting more in self-interest than team interest. And when they looked behind this, they saw that the incentives, both career incentives and financial incentives, were all about individual performance and not team. So when you take a look at how you want to improve something, the incentives at Procter, and I'm sure other companies that wanted to emphasize the importance of teams, incentives moved to some degree having a team component, team performance component. So this is where you need to understand how decisions are made. So the authors say Flexons help turn chaos into order by representing ambiguous situations and predicaments as well-defined, analyzable problems of prediction and optimization. They allow us to move up and down between different levels of detail to consider situations in all their complexity. And, perhaps most important, Flexons allow us to bring diversity inside the head of the problem solver, offering more opportunities to discover counterintuitive insights, innovative options, and unexpected sources of competitive advantage. Well said, and a great way to wrap this up. So here's some thoughts that I have. There's some good news in thinking and processes capable of helping innovation. I particularly like the Networks Flexon because diversity is so critical to success in the innovation process that this can significantly improve the search and selection process for the best diversity for a particular problem or need. And also the Decisionmaking Flexon. Understanding the decision-making process and incentives can significantly improve the chances for a quality outcome from all of the decisions required in what is often a very long innovation process. So a couple of good thoughts here, hopefully, and innovation best practices. If you want more innovation best practices, all you need to do is go to i2ge, that's i2ge.com. And on the left-hand side on the menu bar, you'll see DIY Innovation Training. Click on it. You'll see a whole bunch of training programs. If you don't see one that exactly fits your needs, just send me an email. I'll be glad to tailor one to your unique needs. Here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make you innovation self-sufficient, so you don't need to hire expensive consultants like me to do it for you. This can be a major cost savings program for many companies. Another resource is one of my 6 books, Proven Practical Innovation That Delivers Results. It's available only at Amazon in a paperback and Kindle version, and it's priced at a very value price below my break-even cost. If you have suggestions, comments, or requests, I love hearing from listeners. Just email me at richard@i2ge.com. I look forward to hearing from you. In the next episode, this is going to be surprising to many people. 3 rules for making a company truly great. I'll give you a sneak peek. The 3rd rule is follow the first 2 rules. And so if there's only 2 rules to making a company great, and then the 3rd rule is do the first 2, and they're simple, this is something I think you're going to want to pay attention to because it has a direct impact on innovation. And I take this from a Harvard Business Review article by the same name. So, as all of you know, I'm deeply appreciative of you taking time out of your busy day to spend it with me. I look forward to reconnecting with you soon. Until then, please have a great day.